right, listeners, welcome to this week's podcast of Life is Better with You in It. We're on season 3 where we're talking about being something else. And oh, how I love being something else. And we've got a book coming out in October about it. But this season is all about bringing people on who are something else, who give a different thought perspective, who are inspiring. And so a lot of times on these podcasts, I want our listeners to come back and learn something. So Bart, introduce yourself. Thank you so much for being here and tell us a little bit about you and what you do for a living.
Of course. Thank you, Jenn Cramer. No, certainly fun. I love the topic. I love the philosophy. I love your past episodes that I've been able to listen to. So my name is Bart Berkey, and I founded a company called Most People Don't. Officially, we've been doing it full-time for 5 years. I come from the world of hospitality. I was with Ritz-Carlton for 16 years and various other hospitality companies. I've always given to others. I've always been kind to others. I've always been giving great service to others. And naturally, as things have progressed, and right when the pandemic hit, I had a choice of, do I want to wait to see what would happen in the hotel world, or do I think that it's more important to stop and do this full time, to be able to spread encouragement and joy, new ideas, positivity, and enthusiasm? I wrote a book called Most People Don't and Why You Should about 11 years ago. Organically, it just became very popular. So I had something that I knew I could always, I don't want to say fall back on, but dive in deeper to. And that's essentially me. So we have the majority of my business, I do keynote presentations and workshops to all different groups, all different industries. I know you had the pleasure of listening to me from a hospitality group that we were chatting with, but we share stories. We share stories about how we can encourage people to take action and how to do what most people don't do, because when we do, there are great benefits, not just for ourselves, but for everyone else.
And I feel like I raise kids, right? I think about things that most people don't do. And I think about how that's probably where the something else lives. And so before you entered Ritz-Carlton, right? I mean, that's like a premier name. And people know that name of like amazing service, going above and beyond. Were you always this way? Did you always do things that most people don't? Or what led you to talk about that and then write a book about it?
Oh, it's interesting. I share this story sometimes, but one of my first recollections of trying to be nice, I think, into being kind and doing what most people don't do, and majority of it comes from the examples that my 89-year-old mother has set. I never will forget, this was second grade. We were playing kickball, and I was captain for the day, elementary school, and we could begin to choose my own team. That was my role for the day. And I decided to pick Betsy first. And Betsy was not athletic. She always wore little dresses. She had red hair and cute rosy cheeks and had pigtails. But Betsy was never picked first. And for some reason, I wanted to pick her first. And I did. And my friends, the other athletic boys, the Kennys and the Erics of the world, they weren't happy with me, but it didn't matter. I wanted to pick Betsy first because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do what most other kids were not doing. And she was joyous and she was overwhelmed and she was teary-eyed. I don't remember if we won or lost. It doesn't matter. Second grade kickball, but I did the right thing. I rooted for the underdog. I set an example and I picked Betsy. That's probably my earliest memory. And I don't know why I picked Betsy, but that stays in my mind. I picked the underdog. And that kind of had an influence on the rest of my life. This aspect of doing what most people don't came about really when I was a recruiter for Ritz-Carlton. So in addition to leading a global sales team and doing presentations and sales and service training, I was also a recruiter for a while. And I was trying to, when I would go to university, Jen, I was trying to teach a philosophy, teach just a simple idea that someone could remember. So whenever they were interviewing for whatever position, whether it was Ritz-Carlton or Marriott or Hyatt or Hilton, didn't matter. But if they remembered one thing, it would help them do better to be able to get a job. And you'll appreciate this from an HR and job seeker and job helper and recruiter perspective. The philosophy was, do what most people don't do. And it became MPD. And there's one other aspect of a story, if I may share.
Send it.
One of my
I'm
first
intrigued.
recruiting trips, entered into a ballroom, and there were recruiters like me and alumni like me. We had a pin, and we were older than the students, so you could very obviously tell who were the recruiters and who were the students. I noticed four students only talking to themselves in one section of the ballroom, and I thought that that was odd. I went up, I introduced myself, and I asked them, "Are you seniors?" "Yes." "Do you have a job yet?" "No." "How come you're not networking with all of these other companies that are here?
I
There's great
know.
companies. Why are you
Mm-hmm.
not?" They gave me two answers, Jen, and I thought the first one was bad. First one was we hadn't seen each other for a long time. We just wanted to get caught up. Not the best answer, not what I would say to a recruiter, but whatever. The
Mm-hmm.
second answer was we were here for the free food. And they were being relatively serious. We're here for the free food for the reception. Great. I thought, how can we change this behavior? Let's give them a challenge. Go around, let's make it fun. Go around, collect as many business cards as you can from these recruiters, from alumni, whoever has the most. Meet me, same corner of the ballroom, 1 hour. I will buy you a gift card to your favorite restaurant here in this little local college town. So all four people said, "Great, we'll do it, Mr. Berkey. That sounds like fun. Thank you for giving us the idea."
And you were
Our
a
path,
total stranger.
a
You were a
total
total
stranger.
stranger until
Of
you walked
course.
up to them.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Yeah. But I was permitted to be there. It was a
Yeah.
recruiting event for these seniors.
Yeah.
An hour passes by. I go to the corner of the ballroom and I wait and I wait and I wait. No one shows up. It was disappointing. And I won't mention what school it is, but many people have heard this story. Sad and disappointed. The next morning, 8 a.m. interviews. I'm there to interview some folks that had signed up to interview with me. Great. First person that walks in gives me her resume. I look at the resume and I look at her and I recognize her from the night earlier. I said, "What happened? We met last night. You said you were going to do it. You accepted the challenge. Why didn't you show up?" And she said, "I didn't think you were serious." I could have stopped the interview right then and there, but I did not. I went through the courteous thing, but that was a person that did not do. Left that recruitment trip thinking most people don't follow up. Most people don't do what they say they're going to do. Most people don't show appreciation. And then it became more prevalent in all of the different interviews that I was going through when I was talking to folks. The people that did, that followed up via email, via phone call, via handwritten note, via here's my resume, here's the job description, this is what I can bring to the table. Those were the people that got the jobs. It simply became a theme of what I could share to college students. But then it became a theme that I started to be able to share and apply for myself. If I could do what most people don't do, if I can make one more phone call, if I can make someone smile, if I could pick up trash, if I could volunteer my time, because most people don't, then I was able to enrich my life. Students then started to apply. Most people don't. If I can follow up, if I can show up, if I can accept challenges, they can get jobs. Naturally, it just spread from there. And the people that I talk to on my podcast are people that go above and beyond, people that put forth the effort. You could sit back and say, well, someone else is going to do it, or I'm afraid to do it. No, just go ahead, take action. You have the
Do it.
intention, take
Yeah, the risk.
action. So
The
that's
risk.
that's kind of a long but interesting, hopefully, story for your listeners of how most people don't got started. Now it's the name of the company, and Jen, I even have trademarked those three words. I own, most people don't.
Amazing. I am a huge fan and I resonate a lot with most people don't because um I strive to live a very full life. And so sometimes that means I want to boil the ocean, right? Where I'm like, I'm gonna do all the things, I'm gonna do all the stuff. And so sometimes that is being something else. But I think there's this softness to it when most people don't. And I think about it a lot about hospitality, right? And how we treat people. I think a
Mhm.
lot about it when I'm a recruiter and I'm interviewing people who are scared shitless. I will
Mhm.
stop the interview and be like, "Hey, this is just you and me. We're just talking about a job. I promise you're in safe hands. I'll light a candle to like help with some of the ambiance of the feel of it so it doesn't feel so nerve-wracking to be on it. I don't know that most recruiters do that, right? And so I try to be a
Yes.
recruiter of like, hey, most people don't try to make people feel comfortable. Most people, they want to get to their next interview and the next person, but I remember that for me, I'm dealing
Hmm.
with a human right in front of me. And so I want to give them that respect and that humanness to the interview. So my most people don't is like, I'm going to make somebody feel comfortable in the interview. I totally thought that most people don't would have started in hospitality because naturally, it's a service oriented business. Crazy that it started at a college job fair.
Yes. Yeah, it did. And there's so many applications because then individuals will ask me, what kind of groups do I present to? Like
Mhm.
anyone that wants to get better.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like you can do what most people don't do in leadership. You can do what most people don't do in human resources. You can do what most people don't do in insurance sales. Like there's so much application as long as the team, the organization, the culture wants to get better. We walk through acronyms and stories that touch people's hearts so they can remember then what can I do differently to make sure that I'm taking action. And I can share one example. I was at a kindness conference, Jen, recently, and I
Kindness
presented
conference?
kindness.
Never heard of that
Oh,
before.
phenomenal. And it's through ALG Vacations,
Okay.
which a travel-related hospitality company. And they brought together the top travel advisors that were nominated by their peers on individuals believing that these people that showed up were kind. And that's all we talked about. We didn't talk business. We talked about kindness. But I go through an acronym. K stands for kind over right. I stands for include others. N stands for notice, observe, anticipate, and over deliver. So we go through these little acronyms of things. And just the other day, it was raining, and I got done shopping at Trader Joe's, and I saw a woman that had her walker put into her shopping cart, and it started to rain. And because she was only pushing the cart of groceries, she was going very, very slow, and it started to rain. So if you speed through it, you're not going to get so wet, but she was getting pretty wet. I happen to have 4 extra umbrellas in my car,
Or
and I could
I could
not,
never find one.
Jen, I could not notice.
Yeah.
I could not anticipate what this woman needed, and I could not over deliver.
Mm.
So I got out the umbrella and I walked her to her car. She was a little bit, I think, thrown off because I wasn't a Trader Joe employee. This was at a Trader Joe's shopping center. So I wanted to make sure that she felt comfortable. And I talked about, the weather and my wife and my kids. And just like I'm a normal person, I don't need to steal your Toyota Corolla here. I'm just helping you
Yeah.
get to stay dry. And she was very appreciative. But then someone came up to me later in the store and said, I saw what you did. Thank you. I saw what you did. That was very nice of you. I know you got wet, but you helped her. Thank you. So it's a reminder for all of us
Mhm.
that we can include others, that we can be neighborly, and that we can do what most people don't do because other people saw her, Jen. Other
Yeah.
people saw her getting wet. I'm sure other people had extra umbrellas in their car, and not that I'm anything special, but because I talk of this every single day and I believe in it, it's a good reminder for myself. When you see something, do something. Just don't look the other way. So there's so many different elements of how we can apply it. Yes, hospitality, giving great service, but service to each other, how we treat each other from an
The grocery store.
organizational lens, right? How we
Mhm.
treat our employees. Every interaction should be an opportunity for engagement, not an opportunity to be scared and fearful and mindful and tear up. It should be a positive thing.
Has anyone ever told you that they think that doing things that most people don't is kind of risky? Right. I think when we think about what most people don't, make it sound like a dig on normal people.
Mm,
However,
mm, mm.
I think it's risky to do things that most people don't. I think from a different lens, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're taking some risk.
Yes.
I know that for me, sometimes I think that what I hear from you when you talk about, most people don't, is that bias towards action, right? So it's number one, you got to be paying attention. You have to be
Yes.
paying attention, not on your phone, like to the world around you. But
Mhm.
it's also, there's a little bit of like risk involved to being like, this person may think I'm nuts and maybe
Yeah.
like, go away, you random stranger, you know?
Yes.
So do you think that most people don't because there's some sort of risk involved and
Yes.
maybe it didn't pay off one time they tried it?
Yes. And my answer to that is who cares?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
cares what people think?
Yeah.
And when you start doing it and you get the good reactions, those are going to far outweigh any negative interactions. People are sensitive to being vulnerable. They're sensitive to putting themselves out there. And maybe it's my age and maybe my life situations and circumstances that I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care about being vulnerable. The more vulnerable that I am, the more authentic I am, the more that people are going to feel better and open up and say, you know what? I'm also scared. I'm also authentic. I'm also real. I talk about having an out of body experience when I was 12, 13 years old that caused me to have anxiety, depression, and panic attacks to this day. And I talk about it because I want people to know I can speak in front of 5,000 people,
Oh, yeah,
but
my own stuff.
but I'm also scared about sometimes going to the back of a grocery store where I might not be able to escape properly. And I feel like what happens if I would pass out and then die? Who's going to help me? And that's really embarrassing. So I talk of the vulnerabilities because it opens up additional conversations. Last week, I was presenting at a university, and I always share my email and my text information whenever I present. I want to make sure that I'm available for you, Jen. I'm available for anybody at any time should anyone need me.
Yeah.
And I got the most interesting note from somebody that said, I've been having a rough time going to work because I'm new at my job. Many of the people that I started with have already left or have done something else. And so every single day, I feel like I'm going to be criticized for not knowing something and not doing a good job. But when I heard you say, Bart, do your best and know that you're doing great, it hit me. It hit me. We go through this little exercise, Jen. I can't remember if we did it when we were together, but I asked people to turn to whoever's next to them, look them in the eye, and just say, you're doing a great job. Even if I don't know you, I'm going to introduce myself, Jenn Cramer, and you are doing a great job, Jen, because you've created a business, you are helping people, you're making them feel comfortable, you're sharing your knowledge, you are doing a great job. So in this exercise last week, that's what we did. And one person turned to this girl who was having a difficult time and said, by the way, I want you to know you really are doing a good job. And the girl started crying.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that from you, Bart, that I'm doing a good job and that it's okay to be vulnerable, to feel like you need it. And it's okay when someone else tells you, and it's okay to needing to be reminded. And as a result of that conversation that we had with this group, she said, the rest of the day, people were including me. People were talking to me that hadn't talked to me before. I think the aspect of doing kindness, doing more kindness, being more than nice was really helping people to change. And I share that with you because I'm vulnerable as I'm saying that. People are vulnerable when they're turning to each other and saying, you're doing great. People are vulnerable in sending me a message afterwards, Jen, to say, by the way, that little line, you're doing great, has helped me. And thank you. I feel like I can now do my job better and I feel better about myself as a person. I can be vulnerable all day. I can say the silliest things. I don't say the right things, but I'm going to say as much as I can and be as vulnerable as I can to be able to get that one response that I helped somebody. And hopefully, and I know I did, I helped more than just that one person that sent me an email. But the answer is, who cares? A ship in a harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are meant for. So be something, Jen. Be loud, be
Feisty.
yourself, be perfectly imperfect.
Mhm.
You know, have your children's artwork behind you.
Mhm.
Be you. Be
Mhm.
comfortable. That's all that matters. Right? Who says it's too hard to be someone else or someone else is already taken? Be something. Because if you're something, then you're nothing.
So our listeners today, typically I like to kind of give some like takeaways, right? I always like when I'm listening to podcasts, I want to have something to take away, right? Like whether like it's a line, whether it's like a
Mm,
shtick or something that can help improve what's going on. And so I think a lot about how most people don't. I think a lot about this book, and that's coming out and like writing a book and doing different things, doing new things, just putting yourself out there because you just have no idea what is going to land. And so, what are some things that you can tell our listeners, right, that are maybe like life things or
sure.
maybe like out in the world things that can are maybe some things that you think that most people don't,
Yes.
that you think that they should? What do you
Okay.
think people should do that they
Yes.
typically don't do? I could probably go all day as a recruiter and say a lot of things that I think that candidates don't do that they should. But what do you think for life, right? And maybe we
Yes.
can hop on that topic afterwards. But
No,
for
of
life,
course.
what do you think?
Yes, and I don't want also the aspect of most people don't. I'm not demeaning other people, if that's even the
Mhm,
right word. I'm not
mm,
being negative about other people. I'm simply saying that statistically, there are things that most people do not do, but
good
it
point.
is up to us to make a decision based on our individual intent in our individual actions. I cannot control what you do, Jen, but I can control what I do, of course, and how I react to it. But if
Yeah.
I choose to pick up trash, I might set an example for other ones. If I choose to include others, that might set an example for other people. If I choose to be kind over right, that sets an example. So there's a
Mhm.
few things I think that people can do, and I'll share with you just quickly.
Yeah, sounds
K stands for kind over right. Most people don't choose kind over being right.
good.
Someone cuts you off at an intersection. Maybe you blow your horn, maybe you flip them off. That's
Mhm.
not necessarily being kind. That's saying that I'm being right. So I think most people should try to be kind. Everyone has something. Maybe
Mhm.
someone was sick in that car, having an allergic reaction. You don't know. Someone bumps into you. You don't know why they bumped into you. Someone says something that's inappropriate. I'd rather be kind than being right. So that's number one. A second one, and part of this goes with the acronym kindness. I include others. Most people don't include others. If you see someone back to school coming up, right, Jen? College students, people in cafeterias, people at work. If there's a chance to include someone in a conversation, in a meal, include them. Just ask. And maybe they want to be spending time alone, which is fine, but ask them. At this kindness conference, we started seeing individuals that would go in as an individual to eat breakfast at this lovely buffet and ask for a table of six. Do you know why? Because they were going to include others. Anyone else that came in solo,
Mhm.
would you want to join us? Come on. I got a big table for whoever wants, include others. The end, most people don't notice, anticipate, and over deliver. Most people don't notice. They're in their phones, they're
Based
in
on the
their,
hospitality level here.
yeah, they're in their own heads.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
D stands for do your best. Most people don't realize that all they need to do is do their best. That
mhm.
takes pressure off.
Yeah.
If you do your best, can you do any better? No, I did my best. That's enough. Okay. Don't beat yourself up. If you did your best, that's all you can do. Take some freaking pressure off. Do your best. Know that you're doing great. N then stands for neighborly. Most people are not neighborly. And that's everything from picking up after your dog when you're on a walk to not putting that bag of poop into your neighbor's trash can, even though it's
Mm,
easier than walking to the other receptacle. It's pushing your cart back into the stall.
yeah.
It's being neighborly and
Mhm,
considerate of each other. And so then it goes on from there. E, it stands for erase you. Most people don't erase themselves. They're
mhm,
thinking about what's good for me, what's good for me, what's good for me. And Jen, as you had said, you're trying to make the people that you interview feel comfortable. It's not about you. It's about what can I do to erase me and focus in on you. You are the most important thing right now. Your listeners right now are the most important thing to me right now. I'm not looking at email. I'm not looking at anything else. Jen, you and your listeners are the most important thing. So most people don't erase themselves.
mhm,
The S, most people don't see something, do something.
mhm,
And I think that that is a real easy one to memorize. See something, take action, do something.
Yeah.
Piece of trash. See something? Don't just step over it. Someone else is going to get it. Oh, do something. Someone that needs an umbrella. I saw that. I can do something, which leads to being available to be interrupted. I'm not too busy for you. I'm not too busy for anybody. And then the last S stands for spread positivity, right? Most people don't spread positivity. My mother is not able to bake a cake for her neighbor. She's not able to shovel the sidewalk for the neighbors. But what she does, she writes handwritten notes from her table, little messy kitchen table. And whenever we do take her out, she had a goal the other day of making 10 people smile. Most
Wow,
people don't set a goal of making 10 people smile. I think she made 20 people smile. So,
probably.
so right there, you have like 8 or 9 different things that most people don't do,
Yeah.
that you can do, and just try it. Try to include others. Try to be kind over right. Try to be neighborly. Try to notice, observe, anticipate, and over deliver. Who can I help and why? Yes, you're busy, but when you do these things, you're going to feel more fulfilled. And that's what people don't realize, that it is unselfish, but you're going to get something back. And in
And
fact,
I
I
feel
read,
like I always learn those
yeah,
lessons too. When I do something and I go out of my way,
yes,
I learn something and like I get taught, right? Like I feel like, yeah, might have helped somebody, but I'm like, oh, I just learned a lesson about how I need to continue to do X. Or
yeah,
I just learned a lesson that like I watched my boys hold the door for like an
yeah,
elderly gentleman and
yeah,
I didn't say anything, right? So it's weird because I didn't have to say a word and he just held the door and I was like, oh, they're watching. They're watching what we do and they're emulating it. So even on the bad things, I'm like, ooh, be careful. But
yeah.
I feel like it's like the stuff takes when you learn how to be mindful of others and be paying attention to what's happening around you.
Yeah, and one act of kindness, there was a study done, one act of kindness done a day for 7 days equates to 8% increase in individual happiness.
Wow.
So if
We're
I
gonna have to
can do,
find that study and put it in the comments.
yeah, I can email to you afterwards.
Yeah.
But just remarkable. So
Wow.
it's not, it is unselfish, but you're going to feel good as a result. So it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to be afraid, because it's not always comfortable to help other people. It's not always comfortable to see something, do something, but just try it. Try it and see if you like it. See if it makes you feel good. See what the reaction is. And if it fills your heart and soul, then do it again and
Mhm.
do it again and set the example for your kids and let them do it again and again and again. And it doesn't matter if you hold open a door and someone doesn't say thank you. That's okay, because I'd rather be kind instead of being right. I
Mhm.
wasn't holding the door open for them to say, well, thank you, young man. I was holding it open because I could help them. And I think we also have to think about that.
Mhm.
Kind over right. And why are we doing these things? Be something. Be you. Be
Yeah.
something. It's good. It's okay.
So
Just be.
when you're something else and you're doing things that most people don't, you're gonna flop sometimes, right? I think some of the things we try are gonna flop. One of those instances just yesterday, went shopping at Old Navy, right? Getting some back to school clothes. And, I found a couple little treasures and I was going to return the cart, but I had two of the bags in my hand. And so I'm like walking by one cart that someone left. And I'm like, well, I can't, right? So I don't know why I just couldn't leave it be, but most people don't put that cart back. So I
Yes.
grabbed the cart and I put them together. So now I'm walking with the two carts and the two bags. So I go to put them back. I almost knocked somebody over bringing the carts back because the one took off in front of me. And I'm like, well, I tried to do something nice. But so just listeners know that you will maybe try to do something nice,
Yes.
but it might flop. Have you ever had a time where you did something
Yes.
that maybe went like most people didn't do it and you were like, I'm totally gonna do this. This is awesome. And you were like, that's not how I
Yes.
expected it.
Yeah, no, I made people mad. I was flying not
Oh,
too long ago, and the pilot came on and said, if Washington Dulles is your final destination outside of DC, which mine was my final destination, please remain seated because we have people that are trying at the back of the plane to make connections. And I heard that. So plane stops. Sadly, everyone unbuckles. Majority of people stand up. And I was trying to do what most people don't do by helping the people in the back. And it didn't work. I said, there are some connections in the back. Can we let some people go? There's a couple of people in the back that have tight connections. Can we let some people go? People rolled their eyes at me. People were yelling at me. I'm
Oh shit.
tired too. Oh yeah, I'm tired too. I don't have a connection, but I'm ready to get home too. So it didn't work. It didn't work. And I'm sure the people in the back of the plane missed their connections. And it was an international destination. They were trying to go on for different reasons. And now just think about the consequences. Now they'd have to maybe spend the night in Washington, D.C., out by Dulles. Maybe they're going to miss the birthday celebration, the anniversary, the wedding celebration that they're going to in Germany, whatever the case is, because people were being selfish. So that's an example when it did not work. I did not help the people in the back of the plane. And that motivated me, Jen, to a couple of weeks after, similar situation. Similar situation. I got the flight attendant involved, and I
Yeah.
said, look, there's a couple back here, and it was, again, trying to make a connection to an international destination. What can we do to help? The flight attendant did what most people don't do. She said, let me see if there's any seats closer, and I can move them now before we begin our departure, begin our descent. Let me see if I can move them. That didn't work. It was all full. Do they only have carry-ons? Yes, they only have one bag with them. Okay. What I'm going to do, the flight attendant with me, is as soon as we get close, I'm going to make the other announcement. I'm going to stand up close. I'm going to come back to get those people, and I'm going to need your help to get through, because I was bigger and taller than his flight attendant. So together, guess what we did? As soon as it stopped, the flight attendant stood up first and said, we have some connections, tight connections in the back of the plane. We would like them to be able to make their connection so they can get to their birthday celebration in Switzerland or whatever the case was, but being more specific. And so together, we helped escort this older couple off the plane. And I was the one, tight connections. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. You would want to do the same. Thank you. We're going to help these people get to their anniversary celebration. Thank you in advance for waiting. And we made it happen. We
Wow.
made it happen. Not comfortable to
No.
shout out like that. Not
No.
comfortable to
No.
help a strange group. But I don't care. It was
Yeah.
the right thing to do, and it worked. So first time I flopped, it didn't work. Second time, I know what I can do better. And it's the same thing with you returning 2 carts. You're going to be very mindful not to run over somebody, but at least you did. You were something
Yeah.
else, Jennifer Cramer. You were something else.
That's a wild. And so listeners, you're gonna flop, but keep going and then try a different approach. So you'll have to find this book after this call, and I'll send you the link for it. So it talks about how the best story wins. It's a book by, have you heard of Morgan Housel? His book is called Same as Ever. So he wrote a book about the psychology of money, and then he wrote a book about Same as Ever. So we'll have to share that link.
Okay.
But basically it talks about this concept of how the best story wins. So it sounds like the second time the flight attendant had a very specific story that other people could resonate to, which prompted them to be like, oh, I can empathize with that. If that were me, I wouldn't want to be stuck in DC overnight.
Yes.
If it were me, I'd want to get there. And so, wow, how powerful a story can be.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. If this were you, imagine you are helping this person. If this were you, you'd appreciate this. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So fun.
Man.
So fun.
All right. Well, listeners, you've got some great meat, and you've got a challenge. Go be kind to people for 7 days to increase your happiness by 8%. I think we could all use a little bit more of that right now. And you've got some tips on how to be kind instead of being right, which I think is sometimes hard. Doing what most people don't. So when you see that grocery cart, I'm going to prompt you to have a bias of action and do it. And looking for people who might need something, right? Sometimes I think you just have to look and see what the world is going to bring you. And then you use your gifts. No, you may not be able to bake a cake, but you can write letters. So use your gifts to help make the world kind and go be something else and do the things that most people don't. So Bart, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us this week. It's been wonderful.
No, Jen, thank you. And congratulations on your podcast of helping so many people. Your upcoming book, cannot wait to get a copy. And for the business of what you are doing to help others find employment, get better employment, help with cultures and organizations and HR and recruiting. So many great things that you are doing that most people don't do too. So I'm grateful, Jenn. Thank you to you and to your listeners for allowing me to be able to share some stories.
You got it. All right, friends, best story wins. Go make some.